Like a trusted turnout jacket you've had for years, Flex 7 outer shell fabric delivers a perfectly broken-in feel on the very first wear. Flexible, comfortable, and powered with the strength of Enforce technology, Flex 7 outer shell fabric is made to move. To learn more, visit tenkatafabrics.com/flex7. Flex 7, powered by Enforce technology, only from Tenkata Protective Fabrics.
Hey, we want to welcome everybody. This is a little bit different. We usually have a guest, but with everybody's crazy schedules, we couldn't kind of get everything lined up of who we wanted to bring in. So, as me and Anthony have been talking, we really wanted to try to emphasize something that's very near and dear to our hearts, very personal to us when it comes to training as a whole. And what we're kind of going to focus on in a shorter format is just outside training, outside instructors, and how the benefits, how your department go about doing these things. And I think it'll be really interesting, as we kind of get into this, and hopefully it'll kind of spur you guys to have some conversations around the kitchen table, and with your peer groups around your fire department. So let me just this is going to be real short and easy, I think, for the two of us. Um, Anthony, let's talk about benefits first, and I think that guys who have never attended a outside training conference or an outside training event, and there's obviously thousands upon thousands of guys that have never done this. What are some of the benefits, in your opinion, Anthony, about attending to going somewhere, especially if you're going out of state somewhere to an event? What are some of the benefits that you have seen and that you've gotten, as well as some of your guys? I know we had two of your cadre members, Rico, brand new, first time ever at FDIC this year. And what he shared with you since that event would be interesting to kind of share with everybody listening today.
Yeah, so him and Pettis both had kind of the same thing to say after it, outside of just how big that event is, being at FDIC, part of it, and seeing the inner workings of it compared to other things. But it was still the same thing from their experiences going to different conferences in Florida, Texas, and wherever they've been, was just that outside perspective. Even if not all the time you agreed, hearing somebody else's perspectives and experiences and being able to relate it, especially when you're dealing with legitimate vetted guys, if they're giving you their experience, even though it's or their opinion even, and you don't necessarily agree, they can back up their opinion and their stance. It's not just literally opinion, it is their experience that gave them that view. So even if you don't think it translates to your department all the way or very well, it still gives you a different outlook, and you're able to get a different view on how you're doing things in your department or what you're experiencing or fires you're going to, because you're getting those different experiences and views, and you're able to see things through a different lens. If you always stay inside the same box, it's kind of inbred. Everyone's been trained by the exact same people to think the same way. So when you get that outside experience, even if it doesn't change what you do at work, maybe it just justifies you guys are doing the right thing for you. But you did get outside experiences. You did look at, is there a better way for us to operate or perform? And you found that what you're doing is the best way for you. Or you found another way and you said, oh, we can get better. And that wasn't going to happen without the outside perspective. I think the biggest thing to finding that benefit a lot of times is understanding that when you go to a class, or especially if it's only one instructor, like our hands-on group at FDIC, we had people from all over teaching. I think that was a big reason it's a success, is there's so many different experiences taught in that class, because you're coming from Atlanta, Mobile, Toronto, Columbus, I mean, Oakland, all over the place, Detroit. Everyone's got different experiences of what their staffing is, their response times, their buildings, all these kinds of things. And you got that in every station. So you heard a lot of experiences to blend in. But especially if you're listening to one person's class, they're giving you their experience, your department, is to not go into that class thinking, I have to get everything they gave, bring it back. Not all of it's going to maybe apply to your department, but you might find that one thing or those couple things to bring back that can truly change the way you operate or improve. I've got that, McAvoy, the truck captain in my firehouse. He says it at every class he goes to with me in Pensacola. I might not get a ton I've heard this guy speak 5 times, but I picked up one thing, and that was worth it. And that's a 26-year veteran of our department, senior guy, very highly respected fireman, to say, if I went and I spent 2 or 3 days there, if I got one nugget that I could truly bring back and improve the way I operate or my crew operates, it was worth it. You don't have to take back everything from every class and come back and change. But if you found one thing, that's worth it. It might change the day, at a fire one day. So I think that's kind of the hard thing sometimes is you get eager to go to this class and you get motivated and you want to come back and you're 100% in and you heard all this stuff. Well, not all of it might need to apply to you, but those couple things, those couple nuggets, that's where the true value is. And it's being able to go in with that perspective of, I need to get out of it what I can, bring it back, vet it for us, especially using the senior guys to do that and see how it plays for us. And if you get 1 or 2 things out of that, that was a huge success. But you don't have to bring back every single thing.
Right.
I use
And-
Kurt as an example for us all the time because of the booster backup and the way they do it with 3 engines. And people say, oh, well, we do that different. Yeah, we do our water supply different. We have hydrants everywhere. We have multiple companies all arriving at the exact same time because they're on top of each other. We still do the same thing. We just do it with 2 companies usually instead of 3. So, yes, does it translate 100%? No, but it is the same concept. But once you get to the door, we're still doing the same thing. So you can still, okay, that might not apply 100%, but this part does. What am I going to get out of this? Don't just take, oh, we do this part different and we're not going to change. I can't listen to this guy. There's still a value in that class. Find the value that's going to work for you. But I think that outside perspective is huge because it justifies what you're doing is right for you because you came back and you vetted it, or you did find another way to do something better. And that's what we're always looking for, is that we are operating in the best operation possible for us.
Yeah, and I think when you talk about finding what works best for you, and I just had this experience last week. First Due Tactics in Carolina Beach. One of my recommendations as we get into this a little bit later on. But one of the things that I found, guys who have attended multiple times were approaching myself and some other instructors and said, hey, after I came here 3 years ago, we started this process and we made these small changes. And even though some of the class was the same, they picked up other little things. And then what was really cool from an instructor standpoint was watching them say, hey, this is how we do it. What do you think? I think it's freaking awesome because they found a little bit better way that works for their staffing, their apparatus setups, and so I think those are some truly a lot of things you were just saying about find those little nuances, and then they come and they see a different way. This past class, I was doing extended stretches. I've changed out hose beds on this one, and the guys really got a lot out of. And this was a group of firefighters, men, women, everything, volunteer and full time, that never worked together. And I saw us mix matching the crews on purpose because I wanted them to see the benefits of having a system in their static beds. And these guys were stretching 400 feet of 2 inch in under a minute and a half. And this was without running. This was in full gear, air packs on, upstairs, down boardwalks, all the way out to the beach a couple times. And those are those little things. I think that when you attend an outside conference, you can pick up something, a little bit something that the student shares as well as the instructor. It's not always, and it should never be instructor 100% instructor driven. I really, really believe in that back and forth of, if I'm the student and Rowett's teaching me something and we're already doing that, now I can take advantage of his knowledge and experience, say, hey, what if we did this or we do it this way? What do you think? Then you're really kind of getting that, solidifying what you're already trying to do. And so those are some other benefits. And I want to circle on this, Ray, because I don't want to forget this benefit, because I think it's a benefit that's hard to it's hard to express, and it's hard to for the outside guy who's never been to an outside conference, whether it's a big one like an FDIC or a smaller one like Carolina Beach. The one of the biggest benefits that you'll walk away with if you've never attended or you've only been to one and maybe the experience wasn't great, obviously I recommend going to another conference again. but that brother and sisterhood experience of sitting outside, on a deck somewhere, whether you're having dinner or having a few beers, whatever you like, and able to talk to instructors, but not just instructors, but talking to a firefighter from the other side of the country in some cases, and learning about what they've done and what they do. And I think that is one of those benefits of this group of like-minded people all together and for 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 days, depending on where you're at. That benefit cannot be express enough how great that benefit is for a firefighter and for even chief officers and captains and lieutenants. I think that's one of those things that you have to experience. And I think if you experience once, you'll never want to not go again. What do you think about that aspect of it, that brotherhood, that networking? I guess is what I'm really saying here.
I think it's just as important as the class itself, because when you make that networking, whether it's with other people that attended the class or the instructors, and not even just the friendship aspect in the growing that network of firefighters you hang out with or you talk to, it's growing that ability to bounce things off of. You have a question, you ran a call you've never run before. I can call you and ask, hey man, in 30 something years in Atlanta, did you ever run into this? We had this yesterday. It's the first time I ran into it. This is what we did. What do you think? What have you done in the past? Let's learn from your experiences so we don't repeat it. Uh, and it gives you that sounding board as you're trying to figure things out. And I think a big part of that also plays into as you build that network, you take a class at a conference and you bring it back and you're really passionate about it. You think it can really impact your department. It's not always easy to bring that back and make the change because one, you're local, you're trying to make change within. It's not always easy. Sometimes the outside voice is easier to make the change. But also, if I just took your class and I just learned it, you gave me this whole class in this day and I took it, I can't bring all of that back and remember it in a way to truly make a change. I can't teach it to an entire job. I got to retain just what I could retain in that amount of time. But sometimes it leads to, if you have the right connections within the department's open to it, that instructor ends up coming in and teaching your department. And that's where you can really make change. We did it. We brought you in, and we rarely bring people in. But it was something that our chief had come to a class. We're close enough to Pensacola. A lot of our big chiefs had been there and heard other guys speak. But he came, he listened to the Breaking Barriers class. He knew it was personal to me to have that the guys in the city are trained on people with special needs. And he said, man, I want that for my department. So he brings you in. Then he calls me and he says, hey, we want to do these amount of slots because that's what we do for quarterly training. We want 4 hours. That's 2 hours. Which of Todd's classes, if he's already here, would you recommend? Well, now we're able to have you do this decision-making class that took extreme experiences of your career in Atlanta. We have very similar buildings. We have very similar outside of the number of trucks Atlanta sends to a fire versus the number of trucks we send. Our response is very similar. And take these extreme experiences involving line of duty deaths, maydays, all of this, and say, we have these same buildings. Rather than repeat Todd's experience and have to live through that ourselves, let's learn firsthand from him what happened, what they learned from it, what they did to prevent it again, and let's learn from their experience and make that change now before we have to experience it ourselves. So I think that networking goes more than just the networking itself. It's also the ability to have that soundboard to bounce things off of, and that ability to reach out and say, man, you could really change our department. We're doing some things you talked about or your experiences could help us. And if you have the right people in charge of your department, maybe you bring that person in, because I took your class. I can't come back and just teach your class to the fire department. I mean, that'd be crazy for me to think I could. I don't have you know what I mean? I wouldn't, someone would want to do that. But now I have that ability to reach out to you and say, hey man, this is what we do. This is how we operate. I think you could help us with this. And then if your chiefs are bringing them in, now someone with an outside voice, outside experiences can talk to your whole department. It's not just coming from you. It's just that you took the class. You had that initiative to take the class. And now this could really help us. And then they get the support to bring them in. And now you can actually make that change around the whole department. They're hearing it from an outside voice, somebody else, somebody's experiences, that when someone's talking from experience, it goes a long way, especially like with that class what you did. That's a lot of personal experience, and there's no way to replicate that. That was
Right.
your experiences, your true feelings come out in that class of what was going on in your mind during it, afterwards, how you adapted and changed. The questions you asked yourself afterwards, that's real, which resonates with people because they don't want to go through that. They want to
Right.
be do the right thing, operate in a way that doesn't happen. And they're going to be drawn in and listen when you have that personal experience. You can have someone come in and teach it, especially something like that. Hey, man, this happened to us. We went in, we investigated, we learned these were the dominoes that lined up and fell, and this is what we did to correct it. And now learn from our experiences, don't experience it yourself. That
Yeah.
happens.
Unfortunately, the fire service has a very, very, very long and tragic history of not learning from our own mistakes, or unfortunately, and I'll give Chief Dennis Rubin a lot of credit. He was very out front and forward in our line of duty. That's why he was our fire chief, and at the time, I disagreed, but by us teaching what we did right and what we really did wrong on the front end, during, and then obviously the back end, it probably benefited thousands of firefighters that went through that program, not just the Atlanta Fire Department, but departments throughout the metro area and then out statewide. That program was delivered. And I think those benefits have probably resonate with guys. I still get calls every now and then. Hey, do you have a copy of that program? Can we still do that program? Which is great to see. And something else, and I don't want to get too far down because I've got like 40 things running through my brain. But one of the other benefits, and I think this has to, if you're in that gray area about how I want to go, but I can't go, or I don't want to go, or the wife won't let me go. Here's one of the other benefits that we've really seen, and it's really picking up a lot of steam right now. And I absolutely love and agree this is happening in the American Fire Service. It used to be there was this concept that firefighters were going to conferences, and all it was a drunken, basically, skirt chasing event, and the guys were at night hooking up with hookers, and it was insane what guys thought. Because if you've ever doubted this, or if you don't know this, when you put 200 firemen together in a room or at a bar and they start drinking, you rarely hear them talk about anything but what? Fire. It even gets to a point I'm like, man, can we talk about anything but fire? Holy crap. But the benefit now I see, and really credit to Chief Ike and his lovely wife, Jessica, that I think they really are the ones that got this ball rolling for the American Fire Service. It is as now these events are becoming more and more family friendly, where there's actually family things going on, where there are spouse events going on. Uh, they fully embrace that family concept with theirs, and now I've seen this just really blow up. Alan Griffin, Chief Griffin in Carolina Beach, and his wife Heather, they have a huge family impact now, and there must have been 10 babies at this last conference last week. I was chasing. This is I'm not even kidding. I was chasing twins through the lobby, holding a beer, trying to catch these little babies running around the lobby of the Marriott. So they really become these spouse friendly, kid friendly events, and I think it's incredible. I know with firemanship coming up this July, they have been promoting heavily about the family aspect. My wife is part of that group, and they're going to be doing a wives thing. I think there's over 40 wives signed up for just a wife track of wives getting together and doing all sorts of really cool stuff. So the other benefit, if you're in that gray area, you're not sure you really want to attend, or your wife's uncomfortable, bring her, bring the kids, make a small vacation out of it. You go to class during the day, and then you hang out in the evening with everybody, or you hang out with your family in the evening. And it's one of those benefits that it really exposes your family to the fire service, even more so. I think first time wives will walk away and they shake their head a little bit because they're like, oh my God, you guys are the same goofball idiots from all over the country, not just your fire department. So it gives us a little credibility too.
I'm just glad to hear you were chasing kids around instead of playing fetch with them like you did with mine.
I played fetch with their entire bodies because they were kept running for the door. They were fascinated by the sliding glass doors. So I'd pick one up and I'd run across the lobby and set her down and then just wait. And she would, not run because, she's a pure, 2-year-old toddler. She'd fall 5 times and then she'd get to the door and I'd pick her up and run the next one back. And that's what I did for like an hour before we went to dinner. I was just running twins back and forth at the in the Marriott lobby. So they were playing fetch with their own personal selves this time. So I've upped my fetch game. Or you throw one toy and have your kid chase it a couple times, and everybody just gets a bad reputation. And you're right. I was not thinking of it as fetch till you said stop playing fetch with my kid. So one of the other things, and I jotted this down about the family that I think is huge, huge for the fire service. I really do believe this. I know when Captain Rowett does his conference down there in Fairhope, Alabama every year, we're starting to see a little uptick with families starting to attend, which I think is absolutely awesome. I know it's a social. There's a lot of girlfriends and wives that go out with us in the evenings and hang out with us, and it becomes more. We always talk about the brotherhood, the sisterhood, and I really like seeing this influx of the family along with everything else. Me and Rowett talking fire all day, and then our wives or our kids out there for a few hours with us in the afternoon or evening and watching. I think it's just a huge, huge thing. I love seeing happening. It's really cool to watch it happen and how many places I'm seeing it happening in. I think FDIC is trending that way. And I think when FDIC buys all the way in on that, and they did this year because they had Micah and Gagliano speaking at a main set. I think that's the trend for more family interaction at these major 35,000 damn firemen conferences would be a really amazing event to see that really start gaining traction and coming through. And I love that they're already on that track. And I saw more wives at FDIC this year than I've seen ever in my entire life at FDIC. I think that's, again, one of those benefits that you've never been, you don't know. So Anthony was kind of mentioned this, and I want to go back to this. If you can't go, or if your department is looking to get that outside influence without sending guys all over the country, bringing other outside instructors in is another bonus. And what do you? I mean, you kind of were touching on this, Ro, but outside of the time I was in Mobile, what are some other benefits of bringing? And I'll give you, and I'll just throw out names here. If I bring in Anthony Rowett and Mickey Farrell from FDNY, what benefits do you think that's going to have for an organization? No matter what size the organization.
Well, I think it starts with who you bring in, obviously, because you want someone who's talking to you about their experience, not their theory. But you want to bring someone in who can look at your fire department and take their experiences and not just tell you their experience in their city, but they can relate it to you. Someone who has that ability to do that. Otherwise, they're just up there teaching a class and leaving you to figure out, how do I bring this to us, or does this relate to us? If you've got someone who can come in and say, these are the buildings we have that are the same. Here's our staffing. I understand this, this, and this, and relate their class to your experiences, your environment, your department. Now you have the ability to absorb it in a way where it's already set up for you to employ it, because you're not sitting there trying to take the information and go, okay, now how do we do that for us? They've already done that. So it starts with that, with the instructor having that ability to come in and look at their class and relate the information to your environment. But I also think, like I said, it goes back to that outside voice. It's hard to a lot of times accept and change to something outside of what you've normally done, especially if you've found success with it, and just that something else might be better because you've had success with it, when it's coming from a voice within your fire department, because they're relaying someone else's experiences from a class they took. Where when you have that instructor come in, they can tell you, hey, we don't do this anymore that you're still doing because this happened at this fire. We learned We didn't just continue. You've just been luckily successful. And we were the same way until this happened. This is why we made the change. And then when they're speaking of their experience, I go back to that class with you, and that emotion is real of what you went through, what the department went through. That resonates. And you can take that, and it's not someone came back. I took Todd Edwards' class. He was talking about this Mayday they had, and this is what happened, and this is what he started thinking about afterwards. And why did he do this that day when he's never done it before? Or this and that. I'm just telling your version. It has no emotion to it. It has no. It's just me translating to them what I heard. When that person who had that experience is talking to you, that emotion is still real. When they're telling you that story, it's real. You can tell in their voice. Mickey, you brought him up. When he talks about a Mayday he had, it's very, very real. When you listen to him talk about it, the emotion that he went through in that incident. I talk about the Mayday we had with Rico. The emotion he went through of it being one of his best friends that was in that situation, and him being a part of helping get him out, and it having a good outcome. The impact that going to a class truly made, because Mo Davis and Clyde Gordon said just change the mindset, make the RIT team in your mind interior, or the backup line interior RIT, so that you were thinking of it differently. It's not that I have a line, I'm just RIT team inside. And he said that those words were what changed from him trying to inch up that day to him being disciplined and staying where he was told to be, and him having, ultimately the one that changed the day that night. It all came from a class because they spoke their experience. They said, this is what us, this is what we did, and that resonated with him. And even if it's that one thing, it resonated with him. When I say he changed the day that night, he was the game changer that day. Now, no one else was in the position he was in to do what he did, and it was just that he was the person holding the nozzle that day. But he was disciplined to be where he was supposed to be, and it had a good outcome. That came from the voice. Because I asked him, man, when I had 3 years on, hey, stay at this door, stay on the porch and stay at this door, I'd have had a hard time doing that. At 20 years, I'd have been wanting to inch forward with the boss and feel some more heat as he's trying to see what's going on. And I don't know that I'd have stood right there like he did, but he did.
Right.
I asked him later, man, how did you stay there? Because I didn't expect you to stay there. I expected you to inch up. He did. He said, because you always talk about you got to be disciplined on the fire ground. And Mo Davis and Clyde Gordon said this, and it made sense to me.
Yeah.
And it related to our fire ground. So,
and go ahead, finish that thought. I'm sorry, bud.
It's just the impact when someone who's had the experience is teaching the class versus you just coming back with your experience of taking the class and passing on the information. And a lot of times, the only option we have, you took a class, you pass on the information. You don't want to just go and only you got it. You want to share it. But when you can get that person with the first person experience of those events they're talking about, experience with the tactics and the operations they're talking about, it's very real and it resonates. And that's how you make change. It has to resonate with people for them to be able to willingly look at how they operate now that they've found to be successful. Even if it's just successful in their mind, it's successful, and be willing to look at an option to change and say, maybe we could be better. It resonates more when someone's telling you their experience versus me passing on. Todd Edwards said this in his class.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's unbelievable. Great points, but it made me kind of think of something. And I had a very unique experience, earlier this year teaching in Lumberton, North Carolina. Uh, the majority of the student base for that program, roughly 25, we were doing live fire leadership, a lot of good fire, but you could sense that students were leery because they only resonated that there's a big city guy and he's not going to show us anything. So if you're kind of in that scenario right now, thinking I don't want to go hear what Mo Davis says, he's in Houston. Houston ain't going to do anything like we do it. Well, what most guys don't know is that Mo leaves Houston, goes home, and then he goes to his volunteer department for 24 or 48 hours, back to Houston, back home to raise cattle and deer and every damn thing else this crazy guy does, then back to his volunteer department. So make sure you kind of don't just associate a name with just a big city. A lot of these guys have that smaller organization background, either on part-time, the way they start out. I know, Rowett started off as a volunteer in New Jersey. I started off as a volunteer in Ohio. Worked part-time for years with a combination department here in the metro Atlanta area. So just because you see Houston or FDNY, uh, don't don't let that be off-putting to you. If you're looking at a conference you want to attend, like let's say you want to go to Pensacola Beach, and you start seeing all these names, and you're like, well, that's not going to apply to me. That guy's from Denver Fire Department. That guy's from the city of New York. That guy is from Chicago. Ignore that part of it. Ignore that part of it. The Most of these, what I consider top tier instructors, they know how to relate that message from a big fire department all the way down to, hey, we got two dudes showing up and the whole world's on fire. What do we do? They will be able to give you some advice and answers, not from a Houston experience, but from their own personal experiences on the way their careers came about and the way they started. Yeah, I can't believe we keep mentioning Lieutenant Mickey, but his career started as a volunteer. He almost died buffing a fire. So it wasn't in New York. It was at his hometown fire department. He almost was killed in. And you read and you talk to these guys, their experiences are more than just what's on the back of their turnout coats. And I think that's an important message for those guys, again, that are like, I want to go, but these are some of the reasons I don't want to go. And hopefully we can kind of really push that message out that it's not just, FDNY on the back of the coat. The person wearing the coat is who you're really looking for and what their experiences really are. And they're usually a lot more than just what's on the back of that turnout coat. So please keep that in mind. And that was my experience in Lumberton. The guys were the first hour, it was almost standoffish towards me. And the more I spoke and the more we did things together and the more we were loading hose and stretching lines together, they bought into everything we were teaching. They realized that their 5-person volunteer fire department could do some different things and make themselves more efficient on the fire ground. And we were doing VES with them, we were doing fire tack. One of their chief officers came in and sat with me during a burn because he wanted to have that experience and learn some things about setting up burns. So those were all huge things that he had to learn. He had to learn. He had to kind of get to know me to get comfortable with me. And then once we got to know each other, I am 100% safe if I'm in that part of Lumberton. If I'm in the middle of backwards North Carolina, I got friends now, so I'm safe over there because I was warned, do not disappear here. You'll never be seen again. So I learned a lot on that trip.
To go what you're talking about with especially the big cities is because I've responded to that from people before too. Like, we're not New York City. Well, I know. Trust me, I know. I grew up outside of it. I know exactly what New York City is. But at the end of the day, yes, their staffing's different. Yes, their buildings are different. But once they get to the door, the task is still the task. So how they physically do something, like learning search from Mickey. I remember we did the same thing with Pressler because he was passing on what was passed on to him from guys that learned it from Pressler. He started talking searches, and me and you were both like, hold on, let's go in this room over here and show me because you taught me to do it. How he does a search of a bedroom still translates to one person doing a search of a bedroom. This, you're getting someone that's done it 1,000 times, who's truly developed a strong skill set and understanding of what they're doing. So maybe some of the things in the lead up of how he got there, maybe he walked 6 floors and you're not walking, you're walking across the front yard. The bedroom's a 10 by 10 bedroom, still a 10 by 10 bedroom with a dresser, a bed, and a mattress in it, and you're searching it. How to dress somebody is we're all humans. It's still the same process. So it still translates, especially in that skill set acquisition of someone teaching it to you because they've done it a lot. They truly understand what they're doing. And they have the experience to tell you, don't do that because that doesn't work. Do this because this is how we clear rooms quicker, or we do this. Stretching a line is stretching a line. Put the amount of people on it you're going to have and figure out how to do it. But then once you get opening the nozzle, flowing and moving, open the nozzle, flowing and moving. I mean, all skills, it still translates. You're just getting someone that's done it a lot of times and can truly tell you what their experiences are in those positions. And if they do something different than you, talking about Mickey, he's from New York City. They're not big on cutting peak roofs. when you talk to him and you just hear they're not big on cutting peak roofs, he doesn't like to cut peak roofs. You might feel standoffish with him because you guys do cut peak roofs. Atlanta cuts a ton of peak roofs, but he explains to you why they don't. And now you understand, okay, I'm on the same understanding of why you don't. I understand. There's no reason to argue. We just operate differently, but I understand where you're coming from. But you can still give me this ton of experience and skill set on cutting a flat roof. So you take what you can from people. I would never shy away from someone just because they're from a big city, especially if they're in, like you said, the top tier instructor. They can translate it to you. Mickey uses. You drove down Main Street in Newton when we did the class up there. It's a farm town, but it's got a main street that's a bunch of flat roofs, common cock lofts, everything. And he uses that picture to show you. Guess what? That's still the same tactics of a flat roof, 3-story in New York City. The same tasks get done. You just got to figure out how to do it. I'm going to give you the skill set of understanding. Okay, if I'm on the roof and I'm cutting it, this is how I cut it. This is why I do what I do. This is what I'm looking for. You're still getting that. So I wouldn't shy away from it. It's just understanding how to apply, how to listen to what they're saying, and that it's a good vetted instructor who's going to apply it to you, not just tell you this is what we did in the Bronx, like Mickey. And then he relates it to small town USA. You're from small town USA, and he's showing you how he would small town USA because he volunteers there or volunteered when he grew up. Guess what? He can translate it to you, and it's going to make sense to you. So don't shy away from it just because of that. You'd be missing out on some best instructors.
And I tell you what, and I think another, and this, and everything you just said, register a new idea or a new thought in my head is if you are an instructor with your organization, whether you're the training chief or you're brand new into the training division, or if it's a part of your career path that you want to be a better instructor, either at the company level or organizational level, I would definitely recommend you go to those, some kind of outside training, get outside your four walls, your comfort zone, and see how other guys are teaching how to force doors, how other guys are showing how to throw ladders. And it may be something you already knew, but maybe, or more than likely, you're going to pick up something you've never done before or a technique that you've never seen before. And those are the real benefits as an instructor, attending as a student. And he mentioned this when Bob Pressler was in Fairhope, Alabama. It was very hard for me to focus on teaching sometimes because I found myself drifting right into being a student. Every time I saw Bob talking, I would drift over and go, all right, what's he saying? I got to hear what this man's saying. And I kind of do that with a lot of instructors. Though I'm always in the background, trying to pick up, something new, something that's going to benefit me, something's going to benefit, a class I'm doing maybe a year from now or, 10 years from now. So from an instructor standpoint, you can really pick up a lot of really cool things. And you can also pick up some things that you can say, I would never, ever do that. And that's a good thing too. Because I've been in those classes, I'm like, holy crap, I would never do that. And there's other times I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to try that. Next class I do, I'm trying that. And, I'll tell the instructor, listen, I'm going to steal that. I'll give you the credit, but I'm going to steal the hell out of something that's really cool. So for instructors, the benefits of attending outside classes, outside training. When I say outside training, I'm not talking about you left your fire department and you went down to the State Fire Academy. That's not outside training. That is National Fire Academy. It's the 101 basic stuff 99.9% of the time. I'm talking about getting in your car, or even best yet, getting on an airplane and traveling to an event. I know it's not always cheap, but there are ones out there that are extremely affordable, and there's one every weekend. There's literally one every weekend. So with that said, I want to kind of hit this now. We say this a lot. I know I say to my classes, and I actually was writing some notes about this the other day when I was thinking about it. We always talk about vetting. Vet the instructor, vet the conference, vet who's in attending. And I kind of was like, okay, how does a 24-year-old firefighter from a 5-station fire, how does he vet that guy? And so my first recommendation, always my first recommendation, ask others. Ask around. If you have a very small network, then you need to do a little internet research, and find out what this guy's about. If you see a guy that goes to and teaches at certain conferences every year, there's a reason that guy goes back every single year. It's because he's top flight and he's going to do a great job. If it's a name you've never heard of, I'm not saying that in a negative way. Do a little more research on that individual and ask some more questions. Call around. Hell, if you're signing up for a conference with Captain Rowett and you're not sure who it is, call Captain Rowett and he'll tell you, "Oh yeah, I brought this guy in because of this X, Y, and Z." He's not going to bring in, some scrub from, the middle of nowhere, has never been to a fire to teach fire stuff, if that makes sense. It'd be like him asking me to teach driving shit. That's never, ever going to happen. So he vets the instructors based on their experience and, more importantly, their ability to teach. Now, I'll touch on that in a second. What are some other vetting tips on your end, Anthony?
I'd definitely put a warning on your driving class. May get you.
What not to do. That's the name of that class.
But and I think it goes two ways here. If you're putting on a class, you better vet the instructor. You better not bring someone in just because they're popular on social media. You are doing a disservice to everyone that trusts you to show up at your class. Just because someone can make a popular Instagram, Facebook, whatever page doesn't mean that their stuff's legitimately credible or their experience. Because that's the problem with social media. It makes things very accessible, which is great. But a lot of people might just share someone else's experience. They read what you wrote, they rewrite it in their own way, but they've never truly done it. You're not going to get a lot out of that person's class. A lot of us, we teach a lot of the same things because we teach the same hands-on classes together. We just translate it to our experience with the same concepts. A lot of it's not new. 99% of the fire service is not new. It was passed down to all of us. We're just doing what you guys did for us and sharing it and relating it to our experience. So if you're running a conference, you better vet the people because everyone that's showing up at that conference is trusting that you did that. And you're not having someone go up and teach them something that's their theory, that's someone else's experience. They really have no experience with themselves. But if you're going to be the student, vet the instructor, especially at a conference where you got to pick between different classes. It's not just go in one big room and the conference has a lineup where everybody listens to the same class. If you got to pick between classes, vet the instructors because you might just say, "Oh, I've never heard of this guy or this fire department," and you just missed the best class that's going to apply to you and your job because you've heard of this guy before. I have that all the time when guys from my department go to a conference. One guy went to FDIC for the first time this year. He used to be my driver, and he was texting me, "Hey man, I'm down to this class, this class. What do you think? Do you know any of these guys?" And it was real simple to be like, "I don't know that guy." And that's not saying his class isn't good. I just don't know him, never heard of him. I do know I've been in this guy's class before. It's a good class. It relates to your run area, things like that. It's just simply asking questions. But show up at a class without vetting it, listen to it, and then when you get home, you don't just take that information and try to throw it at the wall of your department and see if it sticks. Go to your senior members and vet the information you got. Because whether it's bad information or it's really good information, you still got to vet it for you. It might be the greatest information from the top tier instructor, but on your job, those senior guys can tell you it's not going to work, and this is why. And you have to do that. You can't just go in, especially a lot of times I've been there, younger guy, you're going in, you're gung-ho, you got this conference, you're super motivated, you want to see change, and you just go and expect to change a 20, 30-year guy. It's not going to happen.
No. Every now and then, but that is rare.
But what he offers you the ability to tell you that's not going to work here. We've already tried.
Yeah.
Down that road, we already tried that. What we're doing works for us better.
Yeah.
So vet it on all ends. The instructor, the people putting the conference on, vet it. You're going to take a class, vet the instructor. You get home, vet the information with the senior members. It might be the greatest information in the world for Atlanta, but it might not be the best for us because I was taking a truck class from a guy in Atlanta. The information's great. Atlanta has great truck culture, but they get 3 trucks on every 5, and we don't. So we can't operate in the same way from a truck standpoint. They have to make decisions based on how many truck guys they have and what tactic they want to do. So great information. Let's learn the skill from them, but it might not change our decision making, and this is why. The senior guys can do that for you.
Yeah, and I think those are again, if you're bringing in an outside instructor, if it's just one guy or if it's, you're bringing in a cadre of guys to do something with the organization, identify what, if it's engine company, identify engine company guys. If it's hazmat, identify hazmat dudes. Do not call me for that crap. If it's truck stuff, I have a limited truck base, and if it's outside my base, I'm 100% honest. That's not my field. Here's who you should call. So if nothing else, you'll lead. The good instructors in this country are never going to come in and teach something they don't know, or they shouldn't be coming in and teach something they don't know, and they sure in the hell shouldn't be teaching something they've never experienced. And that's probably one of the downsides sometimes that we see is guys, they go to one class and all of a sudden they're subject matter experts on something they've never experienced. They have limited training in that field. That's just, again, one of the things to caution new instructors, especially about. Go to these events and take what applies to your organization and then figure out what's going to work best. Don't come in and say, well, Mike Champo said you put the tower ladder here, and the guys are going to look at you like you got two heads because you don't have a tower ladder on your organization. So you got you have to vet the information correctly, vet yourself, and just don't go and run rampant with something because Mike Champo or Anthony Rowett or Mickey Farrell or Kurt Eisen said it. What works for your organization? Take advantage of the knowledge base and apply it in that direction. I think is a good way to look at. Little another, and this actually was asked, which I love when students ask questions. I really do. It's one of my favorite aspects of teaching. But on a sidebar, having a beer, and it was kind of off the wall question, and it was from an experience he'd had. He said, "What do we do with arrogant instructors?" And I was like, I don't know because I'm not arrogant. I don't think I'm arrogant about it. But if your instructor won't spend 10 minutes with you after a class or spend 20 minutes with you and have a beer and answer your personal questions, I'd probably just run the other direction. Or if he blows me off, I'm running the other direction. I think it's one of to me, there's a duty, just like we have a duty to save people's lives. As instructors, we have a duty to the students, and it should be about students first and not look at me. I'm, Mr. Wonderful this, and I'm the most expert at this, and I'm on this big fire department. I know more than you do. If you see that guy, just run the other direction because that guy's an idiot. He just has a pedigree that he can stand on and get a lot of work from, but really ask questions of other instructors sometimes. And they won't always bash, and I won't bash other instructors, but I'll give you my honest opinion. And I will never shy away from giving an honest opinion, but it'll only be based on experience, my personal experience. It won't be, well, I heard that this guy said that I would. If you hear that, that's another guy. Run from that dude because he's probably an idiot too. So vet those guys out really well. But I just thought that question was interesting when we're talking about outside conferences, outside instructors, things to avoid. Avoid arrogant instructors, and avoid the know-it-all instructors because none of us know it all. None of us are the smartest guy in the room. Me and Rowett, and I throw in five more guys. Well, that's seven dudes. We're going to be kind of smart. We'll figure out some crap, but it's going to take a collective effort to figure out those things, not just Rowett's expertise and just not Todd's expertise. But combined, we're pretty smart, and that's why UL has panels. They don't UL's a bunch of smart scientists, but they don't do it on their own. They bring in experts throughout the country who have experience in things to run their studies. So that's again why they do that. It's same concept I'm trying to share with the instructors. Advice on instructors, Rowett?
Yes, I think the key comes to something you just said is find people that specialize in something. If someone will teach everything, I'm probably staying away from them because you can't be an expert in everything. Most of the real tier instructors, they've really honed in on something. They have a strong passion about. They have a lot of experience with. They have an interest in to really always be diving into it and staying up to date, and they're good at teaching it, and that passion shows through. Uh, so for my recommendations, it kind of goes by that. When it goes to the engine, it's Ray McCormack, Steve Robertson, Todd Edwards, and the list goes on, and you can just go down that list of engine guys. When it's truck guys, Mickey Farrell, Pressler, Champo, all these guys, forcible entry. Bob's not really traveling a lot anymore, but Sammy Hiddle. Sammy Hiddle can talk forceful entry on a level most people can't, and he can talk to me at my level, on like a reading level. That's what he brings it to me at, where I can understand it. I mean, he's amazing with forceful entry and his knowledge of what he can tell you about every single lock you might run into. That's a guy that's specialized in something. He's got a lot to give you. Truck company and saying, hey, man, I'm going to really teach you about positioning. Nick Esposito. You know, ladders, guys from Boston. Sean Donovan, guys from Boston. It's what they're known for. Their whole department has a passion about it. Leadership, guys like Chief Ike, Chief Norman, all these guys, Mo Davis, Clyde Gordon. The RIT stuff, I think the RIT thing's a little different for me because I think you have to look at how that instructor's department operates RIT and how your department operates RIT because people do it very different. How they staff it, what companies get it. Like for us, a lot of times it's an engine, so you have to be cross-staffed in truck skills. Other departments, it's trucks, and I think that translates over. But you got guys like Basil, Rob Ramirez, all these guys. Their stuff is great. I think a lot of like a RIT class though, and some people don't have it. It's not saying the class is bad, but personal experience with Maydays is a big deal because that emotion you're going to go through. I've been on both ends. Both ends have a lot of emotion when you're the guy in trouble or you're the one trying to help a guy. There's a lot of emotion involved in that. And if they can understand that and relay that to you, that part's a big deal. And it goes, every other skill set is the same thing. The experience is a huge part. The Mayday one, it's give or take. They may not have experienced or they have. I mean, and hopefully, most people, hopefully they haven't. But if an instructor has, that is a ton of information just in the emotional aspect of what you're going to be going through that plays a role. I mean, we've talked about it before with searches. When you find somebody, they told you somebody's in there, when you find them, it scares the shit out of you. I mean, it is what it is. It's the emotional reaction of your body. So if someone's experienced it and they're really passionate about RIT, they've got a lot of skill sets to teach you and personal experience, that's a big deal. You know what I mean? Commanding a RIT, listening to you or David Rhodes is a big deal, especially because I met Clark. So I know the whole story. I know no one's ego is involved in teaching this class. It is straight emotion of what happened, fact to fact to fact, and the emotion involved. That's a big deal. It's going to resonate. It might change your mindset on things, and it's things you can bring back. So that's just a short list, but that's kind of my list. Follow the Alabama Firefighters Training Foundation. You'll see my list because I bring them all to Mobile Foundation, and I'm going to bring somebody to my own fire department. I don't have a ton of faith in their message and their content. So
yeah. Oh God, no. So I want to. We're a little bit time constrained today, so I want to get to this. I get asked, what should I go to? What should I go to? What should I go to? What class is this? What about this? So kind of a multi-tier answer. First answer is go to classes that are going to directly benefit you right now. That's always my first answer. Wherever you're at in your career, if you're a brand new officer, find some leadership stuff, find some officer type of training, some officer development stuff. If you're only a few years on the job and you're riding back step on an engine company, go to an engine company class and learn your job. Don't worry about getting off into 40 technical rescue things and you still haven't really stretched your first line at a good working job yet. So that's always my first. If it's your first time out, attend a program or 10 classes that are going to benefit you the moment you finish that class. I think that's the best way to go about that. Once you get a few years in, you're talking about transferring, you're talking about promoting, you're talking about moving up to truck or whatever the case may be. Then you start taking those classes as you attend other programs. All right. The other question I always get is where should I go? And there are hundreds of opportunities in this country right now, more than ever in the history. There was a little stint there that guys were worried about we were having too many, and I don't think that's the case. I don't think there's too many by any stretch. Being that they're more geographically friendly makes it more affordable. So if you do live in the middle of Wyoming, well, there's a conference coming up in a couple weeks right in that area. If you live in the upper part of California, we do something out there every year. So those small regional conferences look at who they're bringing in and go, oh wow, that one coming up, I'm way jealous. I'm not going to be at it. Their lineup is incredible. Aurora, Illinois is not a big city, but firemanship coming up in July, they're bringing in guys literally from all over this country, literally from all over this country. Brothers in Battle, Jimmy Davis out of Chicago. I mean, the list, you can get on the list yourself and look and see who all's coming there to both speak and teach hands on. So if you have an interest in something, it's going to definitely be at that event coming up in July. If you're a wife and you're looking to go to a wife track, there's an event there for you too. So there's this unbelievable opportunities in that case. So my first place I will tell somebody new looking for conferences is Fire Nuggets. And I say Fire Nuggets because they do a really, really good job advertising the big conferences all the way down to the micro, whatever you want to call it, conference events. All right. So that's an easy resource for you to reach into. Fire Nuggets, get on their email list, and I get class lineups. They send out lineups on their podcasts and virtual training. So it's a really good resource to get involved in if you're not involved in it. Another really good resource, and you can see it on Facebook, is Firehouse Vigilance with Corley and Amanda Moore. Corley does an incredible job of plugging out the local events on his site as well. And and if he's attending, obviously it's plugged on there too. So that's another really good down and dirty resource. Anything with county fire tactics is I highly recommend. Chief Ike has done an incredible job. The same instructors that are teaching all over the country, the same instructors that are teaching at FDIC every year, are going to be right there in Pensacola Beach, and you're not going to be able to beat the price as far as what you get out of that event. Shuttle rides to and from the airport, all sorts of little perks like that, discounts throughout the beach. If you drive, you park, you never have to move your car again unless your wife's with you and it's raining. Then I have to drive my wife, or better yet, Anthony Rowett drives my wife everywhere. So it's a win-win for me no matter what. There are some incredible events that Anthony's tied into every year that I'm fortunate enough to be tied into. First Two Tactics in Carolina Beach just wrapped up a week ago. His next event in Carolina Beach will be Command from the Sand. Again, last year he had Scott Thompson there, who just was the keynote speaker at FDIC. And again, these are cheaper. They're closer to home for a lot of guys. The travel's easier. It goes on things that Anthony's doing right there in Fairhope, Alabama. Cruise on down. It's an easy drive if you're in the Florida Panhandle. If you're anywhere in the lower Alabama area, hell, anywhere from Alabama, that's a great event to attend. And again, Anthony's done a great job. I mean, yeah, Mickey Farrell, Bob Pressler, guys that you would never imagine having the opportunity to learn from right there in Fairhope, Alabama. And again, the pricing of that. So if you're worried about the prices of things, this is why you go and look at some of the smaller conferences where you're only going to spend $250 or $275 versus thousands of dollars if you're going to someplace a little bit bigger. I'm going to turn this over to you in just 2 seconds, but I've got to get this out. I get asked this all the time. Should I go to FDIC? Should I go to FDIC? Should I go to FDIC? And here's my answer every single time. Yes, 1,000% yes, you should go to FDIC. And you can't go to FDIC once. Don't go once. You have to go a couple of times just to figure it out. I was very fortunate at a very young age when FDIC actually was in Cincinnati, Ohio, to attend with my father. But this is a monster mega event with firefighters from all over not the country, all over the world attend. It's an experience. FDIC is not just the learning part of FDIC, the hands-on, all any lecture you can imagine, but also the overall experience of FDIC. And that's why I say, don't go once, go a couple of times at least. Try. I know it's not cheap, and everybody understands that. But if it's on your bucket list, I highly recommend it. What I'm seeing happen at FDIC is unbelievable. Some of the changes I saw this year already, there's just a constant change going on with FDIC. It's always getting bigger. It's always getting better. So if you've always thought about it and you've never been able to, sign up, get ready, register as soon as you can register. start making those plans, getting your swaps, whatever you can do. Even if you can only come up for just the lecture for the very first time, you can't come for the whole week, but you can come in on Wednesday and do a lecture, all day lectures, and go to the show on Thursday and plan a whole day. Just to go to the show is an all day event. It's a 10-hour event just to walk the apparatus and the vendors, and just a very, very, very unique pool that cannot be topped or touched by any other conferences. The overall sheer size of FDIC, but it is a true firefighter experience, no doubt about it. It's a firefighter experience that I would never not recommend to guys that have that question. Rowett, some recommendations on your behalf.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say I agree with everything you said, but I want to add a couple things that I always tell people is even if you're on an engine, don't take only engine classes. Take a couple classes that, man, I definitely want to hear that guy. Like, I don't miss a Ray McCormack class. And it's just not just because Ray's a friend of mine, a mentor of mine, just the amount of sheer experience. I'm going to open something up. Even though I can go talk to him later, half the time I'm his roommate at the hotel. Let's not talk about something he had in that program he's going to say that might resonate. So I don't ever miss it. I don't miss your class. I don't miss Steve's classes. But always try to take something outside your comfort zone. If you're on an engine, still take one truck class that week.
Yeah, that's great advice.
Because you're going to get detailed. You're going to work overtime. You're going to get that call where things aren't going right. And hopefully you're that crew that gets the tough assignment and the chief says, I need this done. Make it happen. You want to be prepared for that. So you can't always just stay in your comfort zone. So do that. But I also tell people, like, I'm blessed. I have a crew that almost all my crew went to FDIC. Between their volunteer departments or teaching there, we were all there. And it was, what classes should we take? Different ones. Don't all sit in the same class unless it's just that class where everybody's like, man, I gotta hear this guy talk, or I class forever. Take different classes, because guess what? When we get back to work, we're gonna share it. So if I took Todd's class and Joe took Steve's class and Rico took Ray's class and Toomey took Basil's class, well, when we get back, we're all going to share all that information, and you're going to get a little bit of every class. But if we all took Todd's class, we missed the others. And there's a lot of information that may impact us and make us better that we missed because we all wanted to sit in the same class.
Yeah, split up. That's great advice. Great advice to split up if you're with a group of 3 or 4 dudes.
Yeah, a lot of times there's that one class where everybody's like, man, I've been dying to hear that guy, or he never saw our area. But I also tell people, look at that. What about if that person's coming to your area? You're going to go to his class at this event because you can get him next month.
Yeah.
And that's what, like Jimmy. He used to be my driver. He's a captain on another ship right up the street, you know, from the Fairhope class. At FDIC, it was, man, I really want to take Steve Robertson's class. I feel like I should take it, but you're bringing him to Mobile in July or in June, and he's going to teach the same class but a 3-hour version instead of an hour and a half. So as much as I want to take it, I'm going to take this other class because I'm going to get an even more in-depth version of Steve in 2 months. So I'm going to put that off so I can still get this information over here and not miss this. So always look at the picture of that. And then I look at the conferences. If you're new to conferences, look at who's there. If they have multiple instructors that you've heard of, probably pretty good. I mean, they're stacking the lineup for a reason. It's probably a pretty high-quality event if you're looking at the list and I've heard of that guy, and you're not deep into that conference scene. That's telling you something that they brought all these guys in that you've already heard of. And if you still don't know, ask around. Hey, man, you ever take a class from Todd Edwards? Yeah, man, it was great. I'm going to go to that class.
Yeah, go to that class. It's always going to be different too.
Yeah,
if it's the same title, it's a different class. Trust me. It's definitely going to be different.
I've had this before. Hey, man, I've never heard of this guy or this class. I'm thinking about taking it to see what it's about. I wouldn't. I went in there last year. It was so bad I walked out. I've had people tell me that. I'm not going to that class because the person I asked him for a reason.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
If it was not worth his time, I'm going to go find someone that's worth my time. And that's the reality of it. So if you ask around, especially if it's people you know and you respect their opinion enough to ask, they're not going to lie to you.
Yeah, they'll tell you.
If they say you should go, go. If they say you should, you probably shouldn't go.
Don't go. A little bit different conversation this time around. For our next podcast, we'll be bringing a guest back on again. I hope everybody really enjoyed the previous guests we had with our two incredible female firefighters who shared just a wealth of information and knowledge. I think that is something that we all learned something from. I definitely learned a lot by just talking to the two of them, even though they're friends of mine. I still learned a lot by talking to them in this format. Hopefully, you'll kind of take it to heart. Some of the things me and Anthony have said today, and be able to benefit from that. And as always, don't hesitate to reach out to us if you do have a question about a conference and you want honest feedback. Call me. I'll tell you another one's about to happen. Is Wichita Hot's about to happen. That's another major event. I'm gonna put in for that. I want to see if I can get in on that. I may even do that one. I just want to go. So just unbelievable. That's why I said Fire Nuggets advertises a lot, and just surf social media. You'll find these events. And the instructors that are out there right now are just we're at a peak moment in life as far as the quality of guys out there teaching and sharing their experiences and knowledge, and so take advantage of all that. Those are my final words. Rowett, you want to close us out?
Like I said, man, just vet the information before you go. Make sure it's going to be it's what you want, and then when you get back, don't ever just throw it at the wall and see if it sticks. Vet it with your senior mentor. They usually have the answers, and sometimes you want to see change, but the answer they might give you might be, "We've already tried that. This is why we do what we do." And sometimes you might not change because it's justifying what you're doing is best for you, or you might get some information that can truly change the way you operate. So I think that's the key: is the vetting it. It's not just what people always talk about with the vet social media. It's truly to vet the information you're getting. Most of the good instructors will tell you to vet them. They're not afraid of it. So Steve, all the time, vet me, vet my information. And some they're confident in their information because they're teaching you their experience. So, and that's what I always look for. Teach me your experience. I can read a book myself. Teach me your experience. An instructor that teaches their experience has a lot of value, and they can really teach you something.
100%. Well, again, we appreciate everybody that is that's downloading this. We don't take this for granted, man. We are truly humbled every time we see the numbers and realize how many guys are out there and trying to get better and trying to pick up a few things. And we're always open to suggestions. We haven't done this for a while, so I want to do it right now. If you need to reach me and you can't find me on social media or I'm not in your contacts, the best way to reach me is always going to be by email, and it's Todd Edwards, the number 6 at yahoo.com. And I reply to emails. I'm anal retentive about emails. As soon as I hang up and I'm off this podcast, I will look at my damn emails. Unfortunately, just my mental makeup. Rowett, best way, your email?
I'm the same way. Email, I check it multiple times a day because I'm OCD and I can't have my phone show unopened email. The number drives me nuts. PortCityFireTraining@gmail.com is an easy way to get in touch with me. Or Instagram or Facebook, Port City Fire Training. I check those daily too. But email is usually the best way because you don't really end up in the spam too much. Instagram, you end up in the spam if we're not following each other.
Yeah.
And I don't think to check that. So email is usually the best way. I usually day. So
fantastic. Well, we again thank you everybody, and we will be seeing everybody again soon. Thank you.
Like a trusted turnout jacket you've had for years, Flex 7 outer shell fabric delivers a perfectly broken-in feel on the very first wear. Flexible, comfortable, and powered with the strength of enforced technology, Flex 7 outer shell fabric is made to move. To learn more, visit tenkatafabrics.com/flex7. Flex 7, powered by enforced technology. Only from Tenkata Protective Fabrics.